Xi Jinping's diplomats have been buying him influence. China has been meddling in other countries through its checkbooks. But now these plans are blowing up in Beijing's face. Case in point, the Solomon Islands. Riots have broken out there because the government backed China over Taiwan. Take a look. Those unbelievable scenes are from today. This is China-Taiwan in Honiara, the capital of Solomon Islands. Rioters set these buildings on fire and they did not stop there. These rioters then torched a police station. They stormed the parliament too. Police had to use tear gas and rubber bullets to push them back. This sounds like a local protest that went out of hand, but it's a lot more than that. China's moves to weaken Taiwan have triggered this riot. Let me tell you how. The Solomon Islands is an archipelago. Around 710,000 people live here. In 2019, the government took a major decision. It withdrew its recognition to Taiwan and established diplomatic ties with Beijing. The Solomon Islands was among the few countries in the world to recognize Taiwan. This decision to abandon Taiwan was taken by the country's parliament. And reports say that Beijing bribed politicians to make that happen. The decision and these allegations of corruption and bribery were not received well by the citizens. There was lingering discontent in Maleta. That's one of the most populous islands in the country. In fact, the people of Maleta were so unhappy that they traveled to the capital to protest. These anti-government protests have been on for 2 days now. A curfew has been imposed, but the protesters decided to defy it. With the situation getting out of hand, Solomon Islands reached out to Australia for help. Prime Minister Scott Morrison is sending Australian police and troops for riot control.
And the Australian government has agreed to respond to that request, and we've agreed to send a detachment of up to 23 AFP personnel who are deploying immediately, in fact even as we speak, to support riot control, and up to 50 further AFP will deploy to support security at critical infrastructure.
The protest is simply too big for Beijing to ignore. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has also issued a statement. Beijing is backing the government of the day, but it's afraid that the protesters will now target Chinese nationals in the Solomon Islands.
China is paying close attention to the current developments in the Solomon Islands and supports the Solomon Islands government in its efforts to stop the violence and chaos. We believe under the leadership of Sogavare, the government will be able to restore social order and stability as soon as possible. We are seriously concerned about the attacks on Chinese citizens and Chinese-funded institutions and ask the Solomon Islands government to take all necessary measures to ensure the safety of Chinese citizens and institutions in the country.
China says it backs Manasseh Sogavare, the Prime Minister of the Solomon Islands, the leader who dumped Taiwan for Beijing. But is China backing the right man now? Sogavare's decision has only weakened him. He lost 5 ministers over the switch. 4 were sacked, 1 minister resigned. Maleta's premier has been openly defying the Prime Minister. This island maintains its own independent ties with Taiwan now and continues to receive support from the Taiwanese government. And now the people of Maleta have reached the capital. They are demanding Sogavare's resignation. China used its checkbook in Solomon Islands. It bought influence. But the move backfired. The people turned against their government, and China's checkbook diplomacy is threatening the lives of Chinese citizens in the Solomon Islands. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.